evening, hello, welcome, what is actually happening, and welcome to this, the fourth ordinary meeting of the 171st session of the Queen's University of Belfast Literary and Scientific Society. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for coming out on this rather miserable and cold evening, up a set of stairs up here to this bizarrely shaped room. Like, look at the state of this. It is the widest room we've been in, and it is also, on a purely personal level, the most annoying. But we're happy to be here nonetheless. So, as you know, it's the beginning of the debate. That means it's time for some announcements. Just some brief ones this week. Firstly, there'll be a training workshop this Tuesday, so if you want to know a bit more about how to speak, if you're new to the letterific and think, maybe I'll get the speaking thing and go, I'm not sure, come along to the workshop. There'll be an event page up soon, it'll be on our Facebook page, so just join that, come along, it'll be in the PFC, so this very shiny building. Another announcement is we had our Stormont mixer yesterday. A good, I believe, 23 of us went up to the Parliament buildings at Stormont to have a wee debate, have a wee look round, and then go to Spoons. It really was a magical day out. Another announcement I want to make, just to make sure it is on your radar, is upcoming. At the end of the month, we have got our Halloween pub crawl, which will be organised by Mr. Conor McArdle, our events officer, who is sitting in that seat. A Halloween pub crawl is a really great social event for the year. Everyone goes into fancy dress and terrorises the residents of Belfast. So it really is a grand day out for all. So, one thing I kind of needed to... Connie, you look really upset there.
No, I just remembered the last one.
Oh. Yeah, no, this year's is going to be absolutely incredible. Connor's got... If anyone knows where to go for a pint in Belfast, it is Conor McArdle, so you're in very safe hands this year. Also, you may have noticed, if you can see the speakers at the front, I realise that the chairs are in quite a strange order, as they kind of have to be for the PFC, but you may have noticed that Secretary Miss Chloe Ferguson is away again this week, but she's at Disneyland, so that's fun. Just before we continue with the debate, I would like to recognise an irony. Yes, tonight's motion is this House believes mainstream feminism fails minorities, and at the front we've got two white men from the same town who went to the same all-boys grammar school. We're just going to recognise that irony, recognise it's not the best situation, and then move on with our lives. And I'm sure we won't be making any more jokes about that for the rest of the evening. So, before we move on with the debate, it's time for some minutes, so please welcome, to read the minutes of our past ordinary meeting, please welcome up our treasurer, with the same intro music as before, because I love to recycle a joke, Mr. Matthew Bryson!
So, the third meeting of the Literary and Scientific Society was attended by 49 members, where we debated this house does not want Stormont back. The meeting started somewhat somberly, with the House giving its wishes to Secretary Chloe Ferguson after a bereavement of a family member. This was then followed up by a statement by President Matthew Bradley about the changing of last week's debate, which went further into detail about the change and why we felt it was a responsible decision. We then moved on to private members' business. We heard points from Oaken McSparran about Bernie Sanders' surgery. James Orchin then brought up facts about presidents, several of them, and none of them actually were relevant. Further responses on this topic came from Chris Hubble, Bunny, Jonathan Horner, Matthew Sullivan, and Russell Nairn. Lois McCullum then brought up Greta Thunberg and the criticism levelled at her. This quickly turned into a Jeremy Clarkson hate thread, with President Matthew Bradley calling Mr. Clarkson a dick. Emily Monroe said that Greta doesn't want to be doing this, instead wants to be living a childhood. But back to the Jeremy Clarkson hate thread, Russell Nairn said Clarkson was closer to gammon than human, while Mr. Sullivan enlightened the House by saying he likes gammon. Oaken McSullivan defended Clarkson, saying he has done good things. And nobody cared about this defence, as straight afterwards, Chris Hubble gave the House a beautiful rendition of a poem about Jeremy Clarkson, which called him Jeremy Carfucker. For this, Mr. Hubble was fined. For a society that tries not to swear, we've had 5 fines in 2 weeks. Peter Dunn then brought up the topic of Sinn Féin changing their opinion on abortion legislation. We heard responses from Philip Glennon, who said their older electorate had pushed Sinn Féin this way, Hugh Govan, who was totally surprised at Sinn Féin crossing a red line, Mahmoud Sayyid, who said, how can people be outraged when they know this is politics? We then moved on to talk about the new British proposals for the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, which effectively made free borders between the UK and the Republic. Where Conor McArdle discussed that he would be a member of the new no man's land territory. We heard from two other residents of the no man's land territory, Mr. J. Radcliffe and Mr. Callum Conway, who said this shows how useless the UK government are with Northern Ireland, and this proposal shall have real world effect on people having to cross two borders just to go to school. Further responses were heard from Mr. Tom McGuinness and Mr. Rathmone. Now, it was at this point, while reading the minutes, I noticed in my Microsoft Word, while writing the minutes, I noticed in my Microsoft Word a function called dictate, which allowed me to audibly write the minutes. So I thought it would be fun to include that and some of the ways that Microsoft Word did well. So, we move on to President's Questions, where Matthew Sullivan asked, what is your favourite literific law?
Comes the money.
It's the down bottom.
Down one. Your favourite literific law. The President explained in perhaps a bit too much detail how the pop-up banner ripped a bit of his thumb off. Mr. McArdle raised the point of the speakeasy raising prices of Carling by 50p. Mr. President, who does not drink, said he was disappointed for drinkers. Hugh Govan, this is a classic. Have you seen Joe? Joe Mama. How did Hugh Govan escape to fine for this? I have no idea. Or as Google puts it, how did Darwin escape to fine for this? I have no idea. Bing! After Chris Hubble's poem from Jeremy Clarkson, it seems that this has given the House some love for poetry. As if you didn't know last week, it was actually National Poetry Day. Chris Hubble, I wrote it Hubble, here Hubble, humble, like it says up there, asked the President whether he wanted to give the House a poem. The President then off the top of his head gave a 4-line poem about how he might find Mr. Hubble double. Mr. Russell Nairn continued President's Questions with what I can only describe as a disturbing poem, Mr. Russell Nairn, about his partner, Miss Pippa Hobbs. To which the President replied, wow, Mr. Alkin McSparren. Given Joker's success in the box office and support to DC versus Marvel, what is the President's opinion on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? To which he said he's seeing Joker on Friday. The vote on prior opinion was taken with 7 votes to the proposition, 23 votes for the opposition and 19 abstained votes. And the rules of the debate were given while the entire House was witness to what seemed to be a world record time of bell dinging by President Matthew Bradley. Mr. Russell Nairn the debate the first proposition, saying Stormont is broken. He stated that a motion is about the last known form of Stormont. He argued that people have been lulled into thinking that Stormont is the only way forward, and that we effectively have 2 different elections, a nationalist one and a unionist one, which only alienates the moderates. He then made an interesting analogy comparing Stormont and Northern Irish politicians to monkeys in a cage, saying, if monkeys get out of the cage, you do not blame the monkeys, you blame the cage, stating that it is the system, not the individual politicians, to blame. He then proposed a dual sovereignty agreement, where Northern Ireland was run in part by both the UK and Ireland, but with a focus on local community government. Mr. Sullivan then opened for the opposition, saying devolved government must have nationalist and unionist elements in it, like Stormont currently has. He stated that there is no forcing of a unionist or nationalist vote, as we do not have first past the post, but instead we have proportional representation. He argued joint rule will never work. Mr. McArdle disagreed, saying the Anglo-Irish agreement, to which Mr. Sullivan responded, no. He said that Anglo-Irish relations are all for a minute, as shown by Brexit negotiations. Also stating the Brexit negotiations show that Northern Ireland has no voice in British politics. Alkin McSparren then saying, don't listen to the opposition. Nationalists and unionists will never be friends. He declared Stormont has only passed 67 bills in 10 years, meaning there is total paralysis. Also hammering on the point that there has been absolutely no big legislation passed. He compared this to the Dáil or Westminster, who in the same period passed far more legislation. He then quoted the definition of insanity, saying, if you do the same thing time and time again, expecting different results, that is insanity. Hugh Dobbin continued for the opposition, started by condemning Rathel-Nairn's analogy to do with monkeys. He stated that mainstream unionism would never agree with the proposed joint rule, saying that the Republic of Ireland should have a say, but they don't need to overrule local government. Hugh Dobbin continued, saying Stormont works as it is the most effective government Northern Ireland has ever had. He called on the House to trust people to represent themselves, stating no Stormont will mean tensions will be stirred up. Mr McArdle finished for the proposition, stating we're an unwanted state between two parents who had a spicy divorce, and that Britain was an inconsiderate lover. And he argued that we are lucky in the time that we were born in, that Stormont, and that Stormont was an abject failing. He continued by saying that we see the Good Friday Agreement as a golden goose, as it brought us peace for the first time in so many years. He expressed that we do have a history with Britain and the Republic of Ireland being functioning and sorting out Northern Irish issues. Protesting the opposition's points, he said we already have dual sovereignty. He finished by declaring the Good Friday Agreement is a sticky plaster that stopped us from growing each other up and nothing more. Unfortunately, there was no more typos, sadly. But to finish up for the opposition and the debate at home, Mr Mark Gilmore stated that an Anglo-Irish agreement isn't good. Stormont isn't good, but it's the best we have for peace. He then tried to continue Rathel-Nairn's analogy by saying that we should have better monkeys and smarter monkeys, which makes utterly no sense. He then went on to continue, he went on to state that there would be no real compromising. He defended the petition of concern, saying it allows unheard voices to be heard. And he argued that, yes, indeed, we deserve more from our MLAs, but on 97 pieces of legislation we should choose quality rather than quantity. He argued against Ultim McSparrown's claim of insanity, saying this isn't insane, as we do have a working peace at the minute. Finally, he claimed when it comes to Northern Ireland, we should know that we could not be too optimistic, unlike the proposition who have been far too optimistic with the proposal. We open up the debate to the floor, hearing questions from James Orchin, Philip Glennon, Tom McGuinness and Lois McCullum. The final vote on speakerability read 27 votes for proposition, 7 for opposition, and 8 abstaining votes. May I take the minutes as read?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, I need this. This is very important. Bye, Connor.
Get some sweets.
Okay. Okay. What are you picking?
I made brownies.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Remember the donut theory? So brownies. I can make.
That is genius.
Yeah.
That is actually genius. Round of applause for brownies. Thank you so much. I didn't know that was happening, and now are you finished? Everything's in control. Okay, so we're going to move on. That's our logo. To the agenda for the evening. We've gone over housekeeping in previous weeks, but for those of you who weren't here in previous weeks, don't hurt each other, don't drink, don't be a dick. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much the entire housekeeping thing. So, we're going to open up the room to some private members' business. So anyone who wants to talk about something that's been in the news, please put your hand up and I will point at you and you will be able to say about it. Yes, can you please state your name for the minutes?
My name's Connor. So we have a lot going on in politics at the moment, and there is an upcoming general election sometime in the future. Now, I think the key battle for this would be the battle for South Belfast, and I'm just wondering what the House's thoughts are on the spat between Alliance and the SDLP. There's clearly the numbers that could unseat a little peg Nelly, such a shame. I'm just wondering, is this a case of Northern Ireland simply can't even get on for simple things like putting a pro-Remain candidate in an MPC?
Any thoughts on that? Wow, there's been quite a few. Yes, please state your name for the minutes, even though I know you.
Peter, I think it's really disappointing from Alliance. They know how tight this battle is, and they know the support of the SDLP as well. And for them to basically, obviously, Alliance did really well in the last election, and the arrogance in Paula Bradshaw's interview, I think, was really discouraging to what Alliance should be about. So yeah. Paul from Alliance.
Sure. Yes.
Election pacts aren't a thing we would need to have if we used a voting system other than first past the post. Just saying.
Some very impassioned battles for Norma. Any other thoughts on that issue? The battles for South Belfast, also known as the weakest of the Hobbit movies. Anyone else? No, then we shall open another topic to the floor. Yes, will you please take name for the minutes?
Bunny, like the rabbit. Yeah. Widening the scope of our problems. Has anybody heard about the fact that China has been harvesting organs from their minority prisoners? And what your thoughts on that?
Well, yes. Over here.
I hadn't heard that, but the very fact that I hear that and I immediately go, yeah, sounds about right for China, immediately highlights the problem that China presents to Western society and Western values. China is the closest thing that exists to a supervillain in the modern world, and very much, I think the fact that the West takes any opportunity it has to capitulate and sort of, take as much Chinese money as it can is a peak, it's very much a highlighting of both how our current system of governance is not really working and how the leaders of the world are very much just being spineless when faced with Chinese encroachment in organs. Because, they've taken, it's not too far until the Chinese government is going to come over and take your organs as well. So it's not unfathomable to just, I don't know why people aren't resisting the Chinese. They're very much just going, oh, I love China so much.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Sorry, just to add something. Britain has not stopped business with China, even though they know about this. So your thoughts on that because of the organ harvesting?
Yes, please take name for the minutes for the battle.
Tara Grace Connolly. I mean, I'm not surprised considering it's not the first of these mad scandals in China. There was Body Works, it's like that exhibition with it's really grim, with deflated bodies and they're all stuck in a pose. Apparently China did a rip-off version, and when they examined the bodies on display, they'd been shot in the head. They're like, well, they are not political prisoners, and we're not going to apologise for it. So honestly, I'm not surprised, one, at that having happened at all in China, and two, not surprised there not being mass outrage considering they've got away with it for years already. And completely monitored it.
Yes, Mr. Solomon.
As I love saying, China is a fascist dictatorship, and the West needs to stop supporting their economy because they are the Germany of the 21st century, and with their economy being the world's fastest growing and the second largest, fastest growing, and will be the largest, we're very quickly getting to a point where no one will be able to stop China. China is extremely dangerous to their section of the world and to the world in general.
Any other thoughts? There was a hand up, and the hand has gone. So we'll move on to another bit of private members' business. Any other people have thoughts? Yes, take name for minutes, please.
Connor McQuaid. Anyone who's been following the recent developments in Syria, especially northern Syria, I'd just like to ask what the House thinks of American withdrawal from northern Syria, essentially opening up the Kurds to what they believe could be another genocide from Turkey.
Yes.
That's what I was going to bring up as well. I think it's outrageous that this has happened, and I think it's an absolute betrayal. The fact that Kurdish forces and the YPG have been at the front line of holding back ISIL and ISIS. The fact that, and they actually represent one of the few, one of the few places in Syria where there is potential for something that is progressive and something that is democratic, and the fact that America has pulled back to let them basically just be destroyed and blown into oblivion is ridiculous.
Thank you very much, Mr. Howell. Any more thoughts? Yes, Mr. McConnell.
I think you have to remember as well that Turkey is a member of NATO, and it really highlights these issues that we cannot rely on NATO for European security anymore. And it does highlight the fact that we need a coherent European defence policy for the European Union.
Any more thoughts on that issue? Yes, sir, Mr. Hall.
Yes, I think the issue with Syria sort of highlights, or again is another example of the great problem that not only the US but other Western democracies have, but particularly the US, because it is so large, it really is very much magnified, and that is the US get themselves into a position, they get themselves into a war which they give commitment to a war, and then the politicians then have to make promises to get them out of the conflict, and they make promises that they simply can't keep, and the promises that aren't based on the situations, and they aren't based on appreciations of how the situations are changing and how maybe they're still needed in that area, even though US troops maybe are dying in that area. But because the politicians promise to get them out, they then feel pressured to get them out at any cost, and that really comes at the expense of countries like Syria, countries like Afghanistan, you know.
Thank you very much. Any other thoughts on the issue? No more. Okay, so any other bits of news and things? Mr. Orchin, your hand went up with an incredible speed.
Do I state my name again, or?
No, I've already called you Mr. Orchin. Actually, yes, who are you?
I don't know.
No,
Sure. Again, has anyone has seen the news, the story of the teenager Harry Dunn, who was run over by the wife of a US embassy official in late August? The story really, I think, would make anyone's blood boil. The news of this woman who said she wasn't going to go back to the States. She's done that, and now the Americans, I believe, are not going to let her be extradited. I'm just wondering if anyone has any real thoughts on this issue at all.
I believe this is the same story, but did anyone here before hands fully go up? Did anyone hear Trump's response to this?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I presume that'll be what this is about. Just to check. Yes, Mr. Pan.
I want to apologise first for just how sick I am. What annoyed me most about this in Trump's response was the fact that he made a joke about it. That it became somehow funny that she accidentally drove on the wrong side of the road and killed someone. More annoyingly, her husband isn't actually an embassy official. They were intelligence operatives or intelligence analysts, whatever, working within that military base, and she was granted diplomatic immunity after the fact to prevent an American being held to the standards of justice in any country other than America, which is ridiculous beyond measure.
Mr. McCardle?
Yeah, see, this is the thing about diplomatic immunity. Diplomatic immunity, I'm sure we all know, was set up. If you're in a country that has a repressive regime, so that your diplomats can work and operate and not fall foul of a repressive legal system. This is America and the US. The US should respect the British legal system and should respect the reciprocity of that diplomatic deal that they have. And I think it's very, very illustrative of the fact that Britain does not have the friend they once had in Washington. And it smashes this notion that America is going to become Britain's friend in the next couple of years, and illustrates Trump's American First policy very, very clearly. And I agree with what's been said. The comment by the President and things like that there are absolutely shameful and highlight a diminishing of America's standing in the world.
Another very intense hand, Mr. Sullivan.
Another thing I'd like to point out in this situation is that things like this have happened before in other countries and America and UK, and in all the other cases before, diplomatic immunity was revoked. So I think it's surprising that America's not doing it this time.
Any more thoughts, opinions, hot takes of the like on that subject? Not at all. Anyone else got anything in the news? Possibly. Oh, wow, there's loads of things in the news. We'll go to Mr. G. Perry first.
I'd just like to follow up on comments on President Trump. The news of the Ukraine story and the whistleblower in which he asked the Ukrainian president for her to investigate his political rival in Joe Biden, and the Democrats obviously launched an impeachment inquiry. And what are the House's opinion on this, and do you think he should be impeached, and more importantly, would it actually help if he was to be impeached, because there is a very substantial school of thought that if he was to be impeached by the House but not to be impeached by the Senate, not to be removed, then it would actually galvanise his base going into an election year.
Should we have thoughts on that? Not as many as I expected. Mr. Orchin.
I would add that I don't believe that Trump would have anything to fear in the fact of being convicted from office by the Senate, because regarding the notion to 2/3 vote to be removed from office, I just can't see more than a handful of Republicans have even backing away from him and supporting such a thing. So I think regardless, he's probably not going to get rid of it unless it's if it is something exceptionally serious like this is. I think really he's quite safe in his position.
Any other thoughts, does anyone? Yes, Emily Monroe.
Yes, I think that regardless of whether or not anyone thinks it's feasible for Trump to be impeached, it's definitely my opinion anyway that now is the time. I think the Democrats' opinion used to be that they'll just get rid of him in the election, but this is now the second time he's proved that he's not afraid to interfere in the election to make sure that he can't be run rid of. So I think if there's any good time to impeach Trump, it would be now.
Mr. Sullivan, I'll open this up a wee bit because I think there's a good discussion to be had here.
Given that this is a man who there's audio evidence of him admitting to committing sexual assault, I don't think much of the American public really cares what crimes he's committed. So if he was impeached, he might just get elected again.
Oh, yes, in the back. Can you say your name from that, please?
My name's Gina. I'm from America. Not pro-Trump, don't worry. But I feel like, I don't know, from my perspective, as someone who's like come from a Democratic area, I think just like symbolically it would be good to like impeach him, because you can still, like, you can impeach a president and still not kick them out, because I really don't want Mike Pence as my president either. So I think like from a symbolic stance, it would still be good to go forward with it, even if there's no, like, doesn't bear any fruit. And I think it might also help in possibly, yes, it might solidify his base, but at the same time, it might be enough to alienate the Republicans that are like, well, I'm not going to vote Democrat.
Check on sides of the room. Yes, you state your name for minutes, please.
Ben Calvin. I think that impeachment is a tool it's been proven in America isn't very effective. The last time someone was properly impeached was in like the 1800s. With Nixon as well, he resigned before it actually happened. And Clinton, the Senate or something didn't impeach him. But that put to the side, the Democrats have already tried to impeach Trump. That's failed, and I don't see why it wouldn't fail again. I just don't see it happening. So.
I'm seeing quite a few hands, so I'm going to open this up a bit. If just any general takes or opinions on like Trump impeachment, all of that, because it is like one of the biggest stories of our time. So I'm just going to open it up a bit. I'm going to take both your points. Going to go from Mr. McConnell, then Mr. Orchin.
I think it's illustrative of the fact that why we're discussing this is that, well, will impeachment do any good? It's illustrative of the fact that our institutions are sort of creaking under the weight of populism. It's almost like what we were talking about Boris over in England. It's like, if he disobeys the law, will this not further bolster his I am against the establishment argument towards people for a general election? And it's the same thing for Trump. If he gets impeached, he can simply say this is a democratic conspiracy, and it shows a really concerning issue in that it's not the other side of the house that's becoming attacked, it's the very institutions that are set in place to prevent dictators and issues like that coming to the fore in our own democracies.
And if you've got opinions on that, this House believes populism was a force for good, happening in November. I'll plug any debate at any opportunity. Mr. Orchin and then
I would, Ryan, like on the mention of Bill Clinton, yeah, he was impeached in the House. I would remind you that as a result of that, it exceptionally galvanised his base to turn out in the 1998 midterms in producing a result that's quite rare for an incumbent party gaining seats. So I think I'm not arguing on the merits of doing impeachment. I'm simply saying that Democrats should not press ahead with this they shouldn't press ahead without being especially sure that they can damage him in a way, because they know that they can't remove him from office unless something major happens.
So I don't want this to keep going round and round, but I was thinking I do like take into account the kind of argument that, impeaching or with Boris, it makes that figure a martyr. But I also don't think within politics that it's like a productive or good system if we're just like, because of that, we won't follow the law, we won't impeach, and we won't hold people to account. I think that's a lazy system, and I don't think it's helpful generally.
Any other thoughts? I'm kind of getting the vibe everyone's kind of like sick of Brexit and Trump news at the moment. It's just like there's so much of it. It's kind of like just saturation that whenever it comes in the news, you can't just go, whatever side you're on, you just gotta go, yeah.
That's what talks about the battle for South Belfast.
That is what you're talking about the battle for South Belfast. Bilbo needs to defeat the order, aren't we? That's not a metaphor for anything. It was a joke about the Hobbit joke I made earlier. I just realised that can be taken very out of context. Any more final bits of private members' business before we go to President's questions? I'll go to Mr. Mayor.
So, on much lighter news.
Yes!
Local hot dog emporium, Happy Dog, Hot Dog House, etc., has recently produced a rather extensive and delightful ad for their hot dog emporium, which I discovered, I believe it was the previous evening, the evening before last. They are airing on YouTube ads along with all across the internet. And I was very much graced as I was about to watch a YouTube video by the lovely voice of Happy Dog blazing itself into my eye sockets. And so I'm wondering, from the house, have you seen this ad? If you haven't, I very much recommend looking it up. Were you in this ad? And, what do you think of it?
The way in this ad thing is going to become very clear. Mr. Dunn!
Okay, so as an employee of Happy Dog, I wasn't in it, but a former, just former. I finished last Saturday, but it was initially explained to me and pitched to me, and I said to my boss, please don't do this, because it sounded like, if you've seen it, it's I mean, it's pretty cringy, but he kind of like pulls it off.
It pulls it off.
But in an explanation, it sounded horrendous. So I was just pleased that it was like a kind of nice, cringy horrendous rather than like just very embarrassing, which could have been very, very likely.
Do you want to see if we can find the Happy Dog ad first? Just so there's context, because I feel in this world of tweets and other things, people have opinions without actually having a basis on anything. So I want to make sure that, we've got opinions, yes, but we're well informed about them. So I'm just going to go onto YouTube here and look it up.
I might send a cheeky pic to the staff group chat.
I'm just going to... Are you sure it was on YouTube?
Well, they use it as a YouTube ad, so they have to have a YouTube video.
Because when I type in Happy Dog advert, this is what I get.
Try Happy Dog Strand Mills.
Yes, I'll try that. Here we go. It's at one of these.
It's definitely on Facebook.
It is definitely on Facebook. I don't know my Facebook login, so I won't be able to get it here. But if you imagine, I'm sure the people that are good that put their hands up for this will explain it better than I could.
Russell's an actor. He could reenact it for us. Sure.
Do you want to reenact it for us?
I could, yes.
Do you want to?
Do it, you coward.
We're not going to force him into anything. He's an actor. No. He's an actor. He picks his roles very specifically because he's got class.
Yeah, I can in fact play every role in the Happy Dog. And I know it off by heart, having watched it about 300 times. So yeah, if you need me to, I definitely can.
I mean, Mr. President, obviously we can enjoy Russell's rendition, but someone's just informed me if you type Happy Dog Belfast,
do it
in YouTube.
That's much better.
Geronimo!
Boo!
Sorry, precious. Oh my God! Here it is! Oh, here we go. Are we ready? I didn't hear you. Are we ready?
Yeah!
This year, deep in the heart of Stramulus, they were selling hot dogs, but the mob wanted in.
These wise guys that do them down in Stramulus, but I want them all dead.
More action, more desire.
You've got to get to the chopper. They're trying to take my hot dogs.
Enjoy one of the best damn hot dogs you have ever tasted. Available now in store Deliveroo.
I think I prefer the Chinese organ harvesting.
Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Would it be awful if I asked that and no hands went up? Yes, can you say your name for the minute?
John McDonald, Shadow Chancellor. Not to reiterate myself again as I did 2 weeks ago, I've never been to Happy Dog. I would just ask the House, I think that makes me less likely to go and visit Happy Dog. Shocking.
Oh no. I think it says a lot about me that is one of my favourite adverts of all time. Let's be honest.
Peter, we could have seen Russell reenact that. You robbed that from us. You coward. You spit in the face of art.
I mean, oh no, that was art. You wish your respond, Mr. Dunn?
I mean, I'm sure Russell could give like a personal rendition if you requested.
No, we won't force Russell into any roles. Yes.
Is this the repeater actually? How do they describe that pitch to you? What was the exact phrase?
I mean, I don't really want to go for it. Like a PTSD kind of.
Sounds absolutely scarring. Yes, Mr. Hubble.
My poor, poor eyes. That is clearly the work of someone who's gone onto the dark web, ordered a costume in which you have to search for hours to find, and just before doing that, clearly bought some mind-altering drugs to come up with this idea. And I would like to make a point which Arthur made. Let's think of the workers here, forced into humiliation, selling their soul. Well, he was throttling one of them. We need to nationalise Happy Dog.
Name for a minute, please.
Spiritism. I'm not from around here, and I have never heard of that before, but that makes me want to go.
It's really good.
Just because.
This is the most opinions we've had on any topic all night. Mr. McArdle.
Point of clarification, was that Arlene Foster at the start?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what she's been doing.
Any final thoughts on that before you move on to President questions? Yes, there's a few, Mr. Mann.
The thing I've realised about that ad, having watched it again, it just sprung into my head as these insane notions often do. And thankfully, you will not have to watch me impotently flail about on the ground while reciting it. However, in The Sims, there is actually a hot dog costume. So if you were to have the level of insanity, you could recreate that ad in The Sims with the appropriate voiceover.
I realise, Mr. Mann, you maintained eye contact with me throughout that. Is this a request?
Yes.
Okay, I'll see what I can do. I'll need to find my DVD of The Sims 2. Any final thoughts on that before we move on to President's questions? Windows feature update, it's ready to install.
Do it now.
No, just. I don't. Yeah, you've gone. So that's private members' business done. Does anyone have any President's questions for the evening? Mr. McQuaid.
Mr. McQuaid, to follow up on the eventful topic just previously brought up, what is the President's sort of favourite eatery after a sensible time? So, say you've been out. I know you don't drink, but say you've been out. Where would be your ideal eatery at about 2 a.m?
Well, I'm going to tell you a very sad story. My favourite eatery at around 2 a.m. used to be the Bangor branch of McDonald's. And I would drive there and I would sit in the McDonald's and eat incredibly unhealthy food at incredibly unhealthy hours all the time. And then one day, when driving to McDonald's after a debate, as I used to do every single Thursday, which I think explains a lot, I was notified by a certain Mr. Carl Craig, who has left to go to Spain, that McDonald's Bangor, the main shop, was no longer open 24 hours and closed at 12, and I looked so distraught I was told to stop the car. And if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about me, I don't know what does. So it would be Bangor McDonald's, and then, well, we know about Greg's. So they're the answers. Mr. Lamb.
On the subject of fast food, Mr. President, would you care to tell the House the story of a certain incident which occurred at the Parlour Bar a few weeks ago? You know the one.
I do know the one. I'm not sure how I can do it justice in the form of an oral storytelling, but I am noticing that pretty much every President's question I've been getting over the past few weeks has been about food. I just look at myself in the mirror and go, of course that's happened, you fat prick. You know, like, that was going to happen the whole time. But yes, the Parlour Bar. Oh, it's like an awful memory. So, after a council meeting, the council meets every single Monday to discuss issues, sometimes for a short amount of time, sometimes for absolutely ages. But on one of the shorter evenings, we decided, let's all go down to the parlour bar to have a nice little drink. And so we clip-clop down to the bar, and we go into... How many of you have actually been in the parlour bar? How many of you know of it? So, a good few. The area at the back, which I believe is called the library, it's like a little antechamber. And so we sit in there, and get a few drinks, and we're sitting there, and we're like, this is quite good. And then a menu appears, and it is brought to our attention that there's a deal, which is if you buy a pizza and a drink, you get another pizza completely free. And this caught my imagination for a number of reasons. One, buy one pizza, get another pizza free would be fine. A pizza is a sharing dish. But the drink implies that this pizza and this drink is for one person. So one person gets a pizza and a drink and they think, you know what I need? I need another pizza. So I didn't really get the offer. Anyway, and I'm realising this is one of the stories that's going to have to be, you have to be there, and we're going to pipe this off as like this really funny story, and at the end everyone's just going to go, like that, and it's going to be really disappointing for you all. But basically, we found out that this offer existed, and so Miss Pippa Hobbs, who, I'm just going to clarify, for those of you who don't know Pippa, doesn't look anything like me, so there could be no confusion on the part of the barman. Please don't pick a fight with me. I'm weak. And so there could have been no confusion, so she went up, we decided we'd get the pizzas, so Pippa walks up to the bar and orders the pizzas, and we're sitting around some tables, as you do in a pub, and a couple of minutes pass, and the manager of the parlour bar, yes, I'm calling him out, walks into the antechamber, carrying 2 pizzas, takes one look at the group of maybe about 6, 7 of us.
About 6 of them.
Yeah, 6 of us, looks at the group, then just looks at me, walks towards specifically me and goes, are these for you then? Like, the whole pizzas are for me. Now, as you know, I am fine about making jokes about my weight, but when someone else does it, I was not offended. I was just confused. And then this created a sort of snowball effect, where the whole joke was, haha, Bradley's got 2 pizzas, classic chubby Bradley. And then in the council group chat, which was then renamed to Literific Pizza Posting. I can't remember who it was, because quite a few people did this, took a picture of the 2 empty plates and said, can't believe Bradley just ate 2 pizzas in parlour. And then a bit that was factual, he shared out the final slice though, and there is evidence that because there was an odd number of slices, we cut the last one into tiny bits. And it was, yeah, you had to be there, that was exactly the response I wanted to have. I'll just pretend. Oh no, there's the ending to the story.
Raucous laughter!
Pardon? Okay. Look, I know what it's like to stand at the front and for jokes to not go down well. I was secretary the whole of last year. But yeah, the guy came back in and looked at the group, didn't even clock me and just go, those go down okay for you then? And I could see the guilt in his disgusting face. So that's the end of that story. Any other President's questions to line the mood after quite a traumatic bit of my life? Yes, can you state names in the minutes? I know who you are, but for the sake of the new members.
Liliana Becker. Sorry, I completely forgot what I was going to say there. I just wanted to ask the President whether he knew whether it was World Mental Health Day. And if so, I wanted to say to the House and himself, I hope you all talk to your families about your mental health, because you're all fantastic people and you need to look after yourselves. That's it.
Sure. Yes. I actually don't think I need to say any more on that. I think that's a perfectly good shout out. I think, if you're feeling down, you're not alone. Everything will get better. So make sure you talk to the people that care about you, because there are people that care about you. That's really wholesome coming from me. Does anyone... Yeah, sorry. Mr. Sullivan.
On the topic of happy dog and food, what is your go-to dog?
A pug?
Specifically your go-to hot dog, Mr. President.
My go-to hot dog would be, if I'm honest, the most hot dogs I've had have been from Happy Dog, and it would be the Happy Dog, which is pork. I believe it is just pork with like some fun things in it. And then like onions. I don't know, I just look at the
type of ones?
Pardon?
What type of ones?
The crispy boys or the caramelised boys. I don't mind. Unlike Shrek, onions. I don't know where that joke was going. But yeah, a good dog.
Like Shrek, I know what onions are.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Callan.
Ben Calvin. As a man who's also formerly from Bangor, I'd like to know what your favourite hangout spot was in Bangor growing up.
Saying I had a favourite hangout spot in Bangor growing up would imply that I went outside. I would say that, there are so many. There is the Holy Trinity, the best 3 places you can go in Bangor if you're aged maybe 12 to, 22. And they are McDonald's, the Smiths opposite McDonald's for the only video game shop in Bangor, and then Poundland, because that shop makes me laugh my tits off. So, that's the place you go in Bangor. There's so much crap in Poundland. If you want to be entertained, they've got better now. They've actually started selling things that people might use. But back in the day, they used to sell some crap. Anyone else got any questions? Well, I think yes.
On the topic of mental health, I know you did go to see the Joker on Friday.
Yes, I did.
I recently saw some tweets about the Joker saying that it was very dark and a bad portrayal of mental illness. Do you think we should be not, where are my words? Do you think that we should kind of not talk about mental illness in that way, or should we show both the good and bad sides of it?
I think Batman in particular has always had the problem where the villains are described as insane and are sent to an asylum, which is like a kind of outmoded and outdated way of looking at it, so it was always going to have that problem. I do think that it could be, I went into the film thinking, they've said stuff about violent video games for years, they've said things about various topics going, this could be dangerous, but I do think that the film could be damaging depending on who saw it, and damaging was not a pun on Jared Leto's awful tattoo from Suicide Squad. Just generally, my thoughts on the film, I think mental illness, it was portrayed in a comic booky way that kind of went in between realistic and stylized. And it was just strange. I think Joaquin Phoenix was amazing, and I know that the opinions of it have been very polarised, but it's possibly one of the best produced, okay scripts I've ever seen, because I've never seen an actor carry a film that well. It was very disturbing though. I didn't want to leave the cinema purely because I just wanted to see what would happen next, but not in an I'm enjoying this way, and if I leave, I will miss the conversation afterwards. So I needed the toilet, and I decided what I would do is I'd just stand in the doorway because I couldn't face leaving. And then I did go to the toilet, and it was fine. Any other questions? Mr. Black.
I have a silly question, but just to confirm, you did leave the cinema before going to the toilet, yes?
Yes, I did. I didn't just misappropriate the cup. No, it was fine. It was very hygienic. Bangor Cinema is a vessel of hygiene, and it is a beautiful day out for all the family. I don't know how you could minute that, and I'd possibly rather you didn't. And it's taken 4 ordinary meetings for me to say something incredibly strange. Mr. Perry.
On the topic of the Joker movie, did you prefer Heath Ledger's Joker or Phoenix's Joker?
I think they're 2 very, very different performances, because they are effectively 2 different characters. Heath Ledger's Joker will always be iconic, although he didn't have as much screen time as Joaquin Phoenix, so I'd put them equal. I would genuinely put them equal, because they're doing different things. I think Heath Ledger had Batman to go up against, which you kind of want with the Joker, but I wouldn't really say Joker was a Batman film. There's kind of bits of Batman in it, but if you like Batman, there's not really much for you there, apart from going, that is the Joker. So, surprisingly, I Joker. How many people in here have seen it? How many people of those people, keep your hands up, liked it? That's surprising for you, because I thought it would be more split, because it has been pretty much 50-50 from all the people I've met. Any other final ones before we move on? Mr. Thornton.
How are you? Good Gordon. Just a question for you and the council. It's 8:10, and the 2 bits that I have been at, and we've only had 2 points so far, and I would just say, in terms of retaining members, attracting new members, it's very slowed up in terms of the past 3-4 years I've been involved. And not criticising, I love, and it's great crap, but just saying.
Yes, I'm keeping an eye on.
It's something for the council to discuss, it's something.
I was keeping an eye on time, that's why I wanted one final President's question before we move on. I'm always very conscious of time, and I want to make sure that before we go into the debate, everyone's ready and I can feel there's a good vibe in the room. So trust me, I've been on council, this is my 3rd year. I'm like, I know it's dragging on a bit, I'm trying to get the vibe right so that speakers are given the best opportunity for people to enjoy their speeches as possible. So I will be moving on. That's President's questions done. And here's the debate. But before we go into the debate, we're going to have our vote of prior opinion. So, if you support the motion, you all know how this works. If you support the motion, this House believes mainstream feminism fails minorities, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. And all those who wish to oppose the motion, please raise your hands and say nay.
Anyway.
All those who have no opinion on the motion, do not care, or could go either way, please raise your hands and give an incredibly enthusiastic meh. Wow, that was enthusiastic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 16. You probably saw me more people than me. So, not Chloe Ferguson as she's in Disneyland. Mr. Matthew Bryson, please read back the votes.
So we have 22 votes for the proposition, 5 for the opposition, and 20 abstaining votes.
Oh, that's a lot of abstentions. The abstentions have it. We'll do it.
Proposition.
Proposition has it. The proposition has it. Give a clap. So, I recognise a good few of you from before, but here are the rules of the debate. As we know, it's proposition versus opposition. There'll be 7-minute speeches, and the first and last minutes will be what is known as protected time, which means you cannot offer POIs during during those times. So, when the first minute of protected time is up, you will hear this noise. And when the last minute of protected time is about to begin, you will hear this noise. And when your 7 minutes are up, you will hear this noise. Two things. Good job. And if I personally feel that you've gone on for a bit too long and you're starting to get on my nerves, you will hear this noise.
Bryson, fuck off.
That's the noise you'll hear. So, it's time for the debate. Yes, I knew that joke. And the worst thing about that joke is I can only claim responsibility for 50% of it. So, would you please welcome the first speaker for the proposition? Oh, for God's sake. Ms. Innes Watering.
Good evening, everyone. I first would like to say that I'm heavily disappointed to have missed all the cultural and intellectual exchanges, which has led to the happy dog habit. So tonight's debate is about how mainstream feminism has failed in minorities. And I think we should begin this debate by defining what feminism is. Feminism is an ideology. It is a set of ideas, values, and beliefs offering a framework to analyze the society. But as an ideology, feminism also provides a blueprint for action, should it be individual or collective. There lies a question: what does feminism strive for? Feminism fights for social justice. Feminism aims at ensuring the equality between men and women. In order to do so, feminism unveils, theorizes, and provides templates of action to fight against the inequalities encountered by women. These inequalities are of two kinds. On the one hand, we have socio-economic inequalities observed through the uneven distribution of social and economic opportunities, such as job or education offers. The uneven wages between men and women to the detriment of the latter, with equivalent qualification and skills, and occupying the same function, is a cogent example of such inequalities. On the other hand, women face cultural inequalities. They are based on the very construction of womankind as a social category. This construction shapes the way the individual consider, treat, and esteem the member of this community, should they belong to it or not. The impact of cultural inequalities can be as insidious as damaging, causing, for example, an inclination toward deleterious self-depreciation among the subjugated group. These two deeply intertwined and reciprocally causal inequalities are covered by feminism. But tonight's debate is not prominently about feminism. Tonight we deal with mainstream feminism. We brand mainstream what is massively popular, meaning what the masses follow, believe, and think. Consequently, mainstream feminism is what the doxa made out of feminism. And what this doxa made out of feminism is what the American political activist, academic, and author Angela Davis called a white bourgeois feminism. This branch of feminism is now considered by a large strand of the population as the sole modern heir of feminism. Modern feminism is that white bourgeois feminism. As the name suggests, the white bourgeois feminism, or mainstream feminism, does not embrace womankind as a whole, and to such an extent that the proposition has said that mainstream feminism fails minorities. By failing, we support that the mainstream feminism does neither protect, nor preserve, nor represent the women belonging to those minorities. And by minorities, we remind the proponent of the white bourgeois feminism the existence of the crushed voices of the society. We are talking about the women from ethno-linguistic minorities. In the 2015 survey, the National Science Foundation revealed that in the US, the major annual salary of the female scientists and engineers with an Hispanic or Latino background was $66,000 a year, whereas male scientists and engineers with the same ethnic background earned $79,000 a year. On the other side, white female scientists and engineers earned $72,000 a year, and the white male scientists and engineers earned $89,000 a year, all for the equivalent occupation. We are talking about women from religious minorities. In the 2010 study conducted in Greece, the professor Nick Deridakis from the Anglia Ruskin University revealed that amongst religious minorities, women were the ones facing the highest standards when applying for a job. We are talking about the LGBTQ plus women. In 2017, the LGBTQ plus advocacy group Human Rights Campaign brought out that at least 25 transgender people were killed in the US in 2016. Of those, 84% were people of color, 80% were transgender women, and 75% were under the age of 35. Branding mainstream feminism as white bourgeois feminism is not insignificant. White bourgeois feminism addresses a concept and impacts the lives of a narrow facet of womankind, composed of the well-educated woman, privileged by their belonging to the middle and high social classes. Most of these women are white, and should they not be white, they are already affluent. When stripped of the veil through by mainstream feminism, the reality shows that feminism has had little impact on the life of masses of women. It has mostly changed the lives of those well-educated and already socially privileged women. The high-profile campaigns of mainstream feminism proponents, such as gender balance within state institutions, the fights against online misogyny, the claims to have more feminine figures in school books, those are praiseworthy, but they do not reflect the most pressing needs of the majority of women, minorities included. What we should keep in mind is that feminism, as an ideology, gives a blueprint for action, yearning for the protection, the representation, and the emancipation of every woman, should they live on the other side of the world, or should they live next door. I will now conclude this speech by borrowing the word of the Guardian columnist Lola Okorozi. As a Nigerian immigrant whose abusers have full control over documentation and the processes through which she has managed to remain in the country, my mother believed that speaking truthfully to the police was not a choice she could make. My mother remained locked in an abusive relationship, living in shame and fear, isolated and helpless. For the feminist movement, it is also best not to repeat the mistakes of the past. It would demonstrate an inexcusable carelessness for the lives of women like my mother, who are too often silenced and unheard. Thank you very much.
much, and can we please have another round of applause for what was Ms. Watron's maiden speech? Tonight, which is really great to see. But without further ado, let me welcome up to speak first for the opposition. You're shaking your head. Ms. Mary Kate Dobbin.
So, first, there is no blueprint for feminism. Feminism is a wide and branching discipline, as women are wide and varied in their lives. All facets of feminism cannot be represented in one medium, and not everyone's experience can be represented in one medium and should not be expressed by one voice. As defined, mainstream feminism is white bourgeois feminism. It shouldn't speak for minorities. It's not failing them because it shouldn't be their voice. Every part of someone's identity plays a role in how they are treated and represented. There's no one-size-fits-all feminism. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist across politics, across literature, across social, It can't apply to everybody. Women exist in many forms and live varied lives. Feminism is defined as this Eurocentric mainstream can't and shouldn't be the voice for minority groups. Women are oppressed in different ways and along different axes. And to conflate it all together is an oversimplification of both and shows a lack of consideration for how issues intertwine and feed into each other, and it cheapens every woman's experience to do so. It is not the place for white Western feminists to speak on behalf of minority groups, to trivialise and butcher nuanced and sensitive issues, not their own. It is not the place for a white woman to come in with a shining sword and her white saviour complex in order to speak for, and as a result speak above, the voices of the minorities. The concept of mainstream as well is entirely based on your geography. Just because where we are in the American and British Western Eurocentric place does not make this the same mainstream everywhere in the world. Considering Western feminism as the only mainstream is reductive and shows our place in society and just what we see. The online presence of feminism that can very definitely negatively affect all women can encourage all parties, young women, young men, to be involved in activism because they see positives that they want to promote, or because they see these really dangerous and negative views and they're angry about it and they want to be involved. This can raise women's voices and their issues onto a wider stage and brings it to public attention. And this allows minority groups to use this momentum and this platform to bring their unique issues to the forefront and to discuss it in their own unique voice and their spaces, and to not allow Western feminists to speak for them. It's not the voice of a mass or the voice of a white saviour, it's their own voice and their own issue that they want to discuss. Intersectional feminism considers each way that factors of life, race, sex, able-bodiedness, gender identity and sexuality intersect with one another to form your identity. There are so many factors that it would be reckless and irresponsible to consider that any one mainstream feminist bourgeois voice could reasonably or respectfully approach all the issues. Mainstream white feminism cannot and should not be the mouthpiece for minority groups. Hélène Cixous, French feminist from the 60s, wrote, "I shall speak about women's writing, about what it will do women must write herself, must write about women and bring women to writing from which they have been driven away as violently as from their bodies, for the same reasons by the same law with the same fatal goal. Women must put herself into the text as into the world and into history by her own movement. Women should speak about themselves, write their own story. Mainstream feminism." Yeah.
As a minority, you say that white people can't defend us because we have to speak for ourselves. Just a point of information, we could use the help.
Not that they can't, but that they shouldn't be the only voice. That the white voice shouldn't, that they should be supporting but they should not overpower and speak over the voices of the people experiencing their struggles. No. It should be about support. It shouldn't be about one bourgeois feminism speaking over anyone else. It's not about straight people standing up and talking about what they don't understand. It's giving everybody their own voice, and that mainstream feminism feels all women, but that by not speaking on behalf of minority groups, they can't and they shouldn't. Thank you very much.
Now, please welcome up in another first for the Society, Miss Genevieve Boyle speaks second for the Brompton. It's fine.
It's right.
Sorry, Genevieve.
So by definition, feminism is to advocate for the rights of all women and to achieve gender equality for all. Our issue here with mainstream feminism is that it universalizes the experience of the white Western woman of the global North, which was addressed by our first speaker, who mentioned the ethnic and linguistic minorities and religious minorities who face pay discrimination and discrimination when getting hired, which just proves that mainstream feminism does not protect or represent those who are marginalized by class, religion, or physical ability. The first speaker said that women can all be represented by one identity and one voice. This is our main point where mainstream liberal feminism fails. This is why it must be intersectional and span across the different sectors of society. Mainstream feminism is dominated by the white middle class voice. It is been seen historically as well, which I'll revisit later. The alternative is not to sideline these issues, but to have them vocalized in public arena instead of being blind to the structures that exist which give us the privilege and allow us to talk about these things. We must vocalize those who don't have that opportunity and have that voice. Mainstream feminism is it ignores the reality, which is that the female experience is in reality punctuated by relations to power and augmented by other means of social stratification which are neglected by traditional theory, including race, religion, ability, and geopolitics. Intersectional issues are deferred in favour of campaigning for those who benefit the greater number of people. At each point in history, throughout the three waves of feminism, which I'll revisit again, the oppressed minority groups have been overlooked while other underground change movements have occurred within the same time frame. Substantial contributions have been made to feminist literature. These have been ignored while other movements up to the forefront, mainly white middle class women. These have distinct aims and objectives which has been refused space by those of the vanguard of the mainstream. And these radical feminists have been compelled to accommodate the predominance of white advocates who are ostensibly working towards the same goal, female liberation. However, the outcome of these campaigns has been rarely extended to their full capacity to women all within the society, as is the goal of feminism. They are restricted only to the wealthiest, those of wealthier backgrounds from the global north. In the first wave of feminism, we have the suffragists, led by, again, white women, and while it helped to shore up the enfranchisement of people who were previously alienated, this came at the cost of women of colour, and especially in America, where the movement was originally liberal or left-wing, and was hijacked basically by the more conservative party, which was a proponent of slavery.
On that point?
By passing the 14th Amendment, which defined only men as citizens in America, and the 15th Amendment, which defined only African American men as being able to vote, is ignored women of colour who have been drifted for many years. and the alliance between Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Stanton were they then allied with white supremacists. The second wave of feminism in the early 1960s, this addressed the power dynamic which existed on a more individual level, which centered around issues within the workplace, sexuality, reproductive rights, and they were successful in overturning discriminatory legislature regarding equal pay, workplace discrimination against pregnant women, and rights for contraception and family planning. However, other subgroups had to be established in order to address rights which were not being brought into the limelight by the white feminists, including the National Association of Coloured Women in the 70s and 80s, which formed groups that targeted the role of black women in black nationalism, gay liberation, and feminism as a whole. The black poet and essayist June Jordan is quoted as saying, "Freedom is indivisible, but is nothing at all, or it is nothing at all. Besides sloganeering and short-sighted advancement for the few, freedom is indivisible, and either you're working for freedom or you're working for the sake of your own self-interest, and I'm working for mine." In 2018, 26 deaths of transgender people were reported in the US due to field violence. The majority were black trans women. They were killed by acquaintances, partners, or strangers, and they face higher levels of unemployment, poverty, homelessness, and have the hardest access to healthcare. On that place. Sorry. This culture of violence is perpetuated unabated by mainstream feminist rhetoric, which fails to provide sufficient limelight for a space for this discourse to occur. The commodification of feminism, once building into the mainstream consciousness, the more radical concepts which are inherent in feminism are removed from their original context and are free to be interpreted and adopted as trends to increase the marketability of celebrities to a young woke generation without imbibing any of the original message of the revolutionaries who developed these ideas in the first place and experience these struggles most acutely. In mainstream media in particular, feminism has become a tool to brand figures in the public eye in order to keep them relevant and appeal to the younger audience, which are increasingly politically aware. However, this version necessitates the removal of the original resistance and replaces radicalism with more individualized ideas of feminism, including the book, which is seen as hallmark of feminism, Naomi Wolf, respected writer, which is a critique of the standards of women, critique of beauty standards in the beauty industry, which is predicated on the basis that women have more money, more power, and more legal recognition than ever before, but in terms of how we feel about ourselves physically, we may actually be worse off than our liberated grandmothers, which ignores the very real struggles of womenhood.
Another round of applause for what was Miss Boyle's maiden speech. Speak second for the proposition, Ms. Tara Grace Connolly.
So just in advance, I have my notes scrolled and like a very poor order. Excuse me, like I'm back an awful lot. I'm very sorry. I just want to start off with a couple of bits of rebuttal of what was said, primarily by the first speaker, but just to kind of clarify some points along the way. Firstly, it was said by your kid already about the blueprint for action comment about the first speaker. Feminism is addressed in a very broad spectrum. It is an ideology, but within that ideology exists multiple different theories of feminism. And blueprints for actions completely vary depending on what that theory may be, ranging from the neoliberal feminism to the Marxist feminism to every kind of shade of feminism within that umbrella term. There was also a comment made about how women of a Hispanic background earn $66,000 a year compared to their male counterparts who earn about $79,000 a year, am I right? But then that failed to take into consideration. So if you're looking at feminism, what it's supposed to be, we said about the equality between men and women, about having that egalitarianism, it doesn't seem to fail the minority of men. It seems to, even in the system of mainstream feminism, minority men still seem to prevail in that system, even over white women, even over other minorities. You still see a minority succeeding over another. But that's by the by. We also agreed with one of Genevieve's points that was mentioned earlier on about we also don't think that white women should be the voice for ethnic minorities. That's absolutely not what we're saying here. We agree with that point, which is a bit of an issue in terms of we also don't think that white women are the vehicle for the issues that ethnic minorities come through. So here's the first freaking back and forth. Okay. So Mary Kate's already mentioned Eurocentrism of mainstream feminism. Again, that sort of there's the issue of what is mainstream, who defines what mainstream is, because in Western society, sure, white feminism, Eurocentrism, feminism, that is the mainstream, but if you go to Asia or Africa, there are forms of feminism that exist in those societies that is the mainstream there, and to look at it through the medium of white feminism as the only mainstream ignores the nuances of what is mainstream in other continents or countries or whatever. The example I actually used there in my notes to get that in my head was BTS may be relevant in Korea. They may be the biggest group in the world in Korea. It doesn't make them irrelevant when they go elsewhere. They're not the mainstream group, but they are still massive out there. So I'll flip back to what I was going to say earlier on. Okay, so mainstream feminism as it initially came about, I was reading about it earlier on. I did it part of my undergraduate degree. It's a broad strokes approach to egalitarianism. It kind of focuses on primarily the big issues of voting rights, financial equality, suffrage, the gender pay gap, the big issues that sort of affect everybody in an umbrella term. If you look back towards the Pankhursts, it was essentially not a one-issue thing, but it was voting, it was big sort of legal issues. It was never designed to be a vehicle for nuanced minority debate, and that is something that we think that mainstream feminism hasn't failed minorities, and that it should never have been the vehicle for those issues to have been addressed in the first place. If you look back at the stuff like Angela Davis and the whole wealth of people who are part of the black feminist or black queer feminist theories who think that the place for black women's liberation, black queer women's liberation is not within the mainstream discourse. It should never have been part of that discussion. That to have the issues faced by black queer women or women of colour or of religious backgrounds that are different from the mainstream of Western Europe dilutes the message of what those people are trying to say. That the only place for the discourse about black feminist rights and black queer rights is within that community for them to be able to be the voice of themselves. And yes, on the point.
But shouldn't there be an effort to raise awareness of those issues and to bring them more into the mainstream so that people who would not be part of those communities are aware of those struggles that are going on in the communities, considering that those people would be in a position to help through these political movements?
I think there is a place for allyship within mainstream feminism, but it should not absolutely be the voice and the vehicle. You can appreciate somebody else's struggles, like having to be the person that is white to stand up and say, I'm going to speak on behalf of the black feminist movement, I'm going to speak on behalf of Islamic feminists, which is also something I want to go on to as well, specifically. I want to specifically reference Islamic feminists because it's something I was reading about earlier on. But in Islamic feminism, they would say that there is a place for other people to join the discussion, to be part of their discussion. It shouldn't be the other way around. That Islamic feminism should not be subsumed into mainstream feminism because of an entirely different issue. And the context of Islamic feminism is so specific and so nuanced that to put it into the context of a wider discourse of mainstream feminism completely loses the crux of what that argument's about. So, for example, if you look at a lot of what Islamic feminist stands for, it is about using the Quran as a vehicle to liberate women themselves with their own religion. I also don't think, standing here as a white woman, do I have any place in this discourse to tell a woman of a Muslim background, you should wear a hijab or not. That should be something that is driven by and for Islamic women, Muslim women, people in that community, rather than me being up here like the white saviour complex that Mary Kate referenced earlier on, to speak on their behalf. I'm just going through as well. Yes, so about, I mentioned earlier on about mainstream feminism being a generally open umbrella discussion. the example I used earlier on as well, but I was trying to get this into my brain of why in mainstream feminism it shouldn't be seen as minorities were failed. So the example that I used was, think of the environmental justice movement. In that environmental justice movement, you get lots of different people advocating for lots of different ways towards the one goal of climate justice. Just because there are vegans that are part of that movement who think that veganism is the way forward, or one of the ways forward for environmental justice, doesn't mean that all vegans are being failed, because that is not the only thing that is being pushed forward. There are multiple different ways to reach the same goal, and all of these different voices have their place within that, but they shouldn't be whitewashed, for lack of a better word, to make the message more palatable. Those people and those communities deserve to have a voice of their own and to not be just stuck into mainstream debate. And that's why we don't think it has failed minorities, because the minority voices should never have been just stuck into the long term of your issues will be dealt with in this very vague, overarching, umbrella-like term. It should be dealt with and given the respect and the nuance and the own standard and importance of its own, rather than just lumped into here's gender pay equality and also we'll aspire a bit at the end about you being black and queer deserving rights as well. That was quite long-winded and thick, but thank you very much.
Now, please welcome up to conclude for the proposition, Miss Bonnie Chan.
For everyone's information, my name's not really Bunny, Banu, but I prefer Bunny. Okay. I'd like to start my speech today by clearing up a few points. Side opposition has told us that mainstream isn't what mainstream is. So let me give you a brief example. When I say feminist, what comes to your mind? What do you think of? Do you think of one of the girls sitting around here? Do you think of your mom or your aunt? Or do you think of a radical feminist, which is more common, right? So I ask you this question. How many of you in this room, please raise your hands, be with me, identify as a feminist? That's about half the room, right? How many of you believe that I should have the same rights as a white woman? And that's all of them. So, that for some reason, half the room does not want to identify themselves as feminist anymore. Because what happened is that the idea of mainstream feminism has become so thwarted that no, thank you. I'll take it right later. Has become so thwarted that they don't want to identify themselves as that anymore. So, I would like to define feminism. Mainstream feminism is that the popular opinion of people. No, sorry. And is that it has diverged so far from its grassroots points, from fighting for the vote, or in Saudi Arabia, the right to drive, to becoming a struggle for topless women in bars. So their idea of what feminism is, their idea of what privilege is, has become so very different. So very different than what it has to be. So I'll start my speech by a few rebuttals. Both first and second speakers mentioned that it's not for white women to express and voice the struggles for minorities. I should ask them, then should children and animals stand up for themselves?
On that point,
yeah,
we didn't say that they shouldn't vocalize it, we said they shouldn't be the main driving force of that argument. White women should be allies in supporting people of colour or of ethnic minorities to voice their opinions. I shouldn't stand here, the white woman, and speak on anybody else's behalf. I should be there to support them doing it, but I shouldn't be their voice.
Yeah, I understand that, but by doing that, it's an excuse for not helping people of a different color. It allows them for you to say, oh, because I want to respect the fact that you are of a different color and you have different struggles than me, then I shall not come into collaboration with that. So,
let's go back and forth, please.
Yeah. So, I mean, as a minority, if you think about it, right? If every white woman in America turned around, looked at Saudi Arabia and said, you give the right to vote now. Saudi Arabia would change overnight. it's the power of people. If they have to think about women banding together, if we start to think about what separates us, like color or ethnicity or religion, then we're doing the same thing that men did to us a long time ago. My second rebuttal is that, okay, no, that was my rebuttal. Oh yeah, okay, now on to my first point. The biggest issue for today, boys. I would like to comment that there are no boys sitting on a panel when we're talking about feminism. Why? Because they aren't feminists? Because they don't respect women's rights? Because they can't speak for women's rights? If every man, similarly in the same way, if every man, actually in a better way, turned around overnight and said, you know what? We're just going to respect women. We're just going to give them equal pay. We're just going to give them equal rights. If every man turned around and did that, we wouldn't be here debating this anymore. But no, they choose to abstain themselves. They say, oh no, it's not my struggle. I don't want to be, I don't want to be disrespectful in the sense that, I don't understand what they're going through. So I'm not going to speak about that. Yeah.
I think this is going back again to Tara's rebuttal. As a man, I didn't want to speak on behalf of women, but I have, through my activism, supported women. That's the difference.
Yeah, I understand. So I'm saying, as a minority, as a woman, speak on the behalf of us. Because you know what? It creates change. It helps people. And if that's what we want to do, then help us. Just because you feel you're not entitled to speak to something doesn't mean that they're not crying out for help.
On that point,
yeah.
We are not pulling this line of argument out of nowhere. There are decades of feminist theory and black queer writers and Islamic feminist writers who said actively they do that the place for white people in this discussion is to be the support, not to be the voice. And I think that is what there's a confusion happening here as to the level of what extent should we speak. We do not think on this side of the panel that we should be the main vehicle, and we are taking our lead not from a white feminist here, but from black feminist scholars and queer feminist scholars and people of colour feminist scholars.
Yeah, alright. Well, whether or not you want to be the main vehicle, whether or not you are the main vehicle, whether or not you should be the main vehicle, the point is you are failing feminism, failing minorities anyway. By not being the main vehicle, by thinking you shouldn't be the main vehicle, or by simply saying that they should defend themselves because they have the right, because they want to defend themselves, you're failing minorities, right? Let's start by, sorry. Yeah, okay. So let's start by looking at the glass ceiling. So with mainstream feminism, the feminism that comes to your mind, it only protects a certain persona of women. It creates this kind of glass ceiling of if you are close to that glass ceiling, you are protected. When I'm in the UK, I have the same rights as every other white girl in this room. But when I'm back home, I don't. Because here I'm equal, but there I'm not. Even though there I'm not, even though there I'm still a minority, and even though here I still am, right? What it fails to recognize is that anyone below this glass ceiling is completely abandoned. And no one has the opportunity to get near this glass ceiling of privilege, of fighting for the fact that, you know what, I don't want to wear a hijab, let alone I want to be topless in a bar. We have to look at the fundamentals, go back to the basics of what feminism was, about fundamental human rights, that women deserve, that we should be equal to men instead of subordinate to men. And you know what? I'll leave you with this quote, right? From the United Nations Deputy Director of the South Pacific. It's alright. From the South Pacific. If we're aiming to be equal to men, we're aiming too low. No, not because of anything else other than men don't get that much right either. Thank you.
And can we get another round of applause for what was Ms. Jan's maiden speech? From the opposition and indeed the debate, Ms. Emma Protigratis.
Oh goodness, what a heated debate here, okay. Oh. about me. Okay, I would like to start with Bani. I'm saying it correctly? Okay. With Bani quote that it's it made me think for a bit. I was trying to write it down, but I think it's easier for me to try to remember. Let's see if I say it correctly. We're aiming low when we look at men because they're being treated badly as well. And that's precisely the point that we're trying to make here. Because you see, when we're talking about mainstream feminism failing minorities, we are, and I'm going to be in a very Marxist extension here, but it's true that we are not looking above the glass ceiling. But it's the only minority that we haven't talked into this debate. The biggest and the smallest minority at the same time. Where are the rich people in this debate? Where are the rich people? Do you think that a woman into a skyscraper with her martini in her hand is going to think about you or me? She probably is not. So what I really want to talk about in this debate is that there are a lot of theories about feminism. And when we're only focusing on mainstream feminism as, let's say, the core of all evil, we are forgetting that this is a broad movement. And that's what we were trying to say along all the debate. Because we were focusing all these arguments on Eurocentrism and how it is true mainstream could be Eurocentric, but it's our fight to think about the main goal. What is the main goal of feminism? It's equality, it's the liberation, it's the freedom of everyone. So mainstream feminism doesn't only fail minorities, it fails everybody. The only minority that it doesn't fail, probably the rich people who are in their skyscraper looking at us. Anyways, so why does it fail everyone? Because of the propaganda. It fails men and women equally. That's why I said that I agreed in your point. The only minority that doesn't fail is rich people. Why do I say this over and over again? Because as Mary Kate said, every part of someone's identity plays a part as a whole. We all are biased, right? I mean, I'm white, I'm not queer, or maybe yes, I don't know. I don't understand women of race because I am not one. However, as a feminist, that's why I want you to speak here. Maybe on my behalf or maybe not, but I couldn't speak on your behalf because I should be an ally, and that's what Kara's trying to say all the time. Angela Davis, she said that women, race, and class, but she always put women first. And it's what we need to do. That's why we don't have any men in this table, because they should be our allies, not our voices. I think we are very grown-ups to talk about ourselves on our own. Thank you. Our journalism. So, the point that you asked Mary Kate, and the poor thing, she was kind of scared because you were so strong when you asked her this. You asked her, why are you talking about me? And she said, why people shouldn't be saviors. And that's what we're trying to say in this whole debate. The points of clash in this debate has been equality versus egalitarianism. Because sometimes we all have this image of, oh, this is equality. I can buy a feminist t-shirt in Zara, but who is selling you this t-shirt? Probably, or who made this t-shirt? Probably some woman in a labor slavery kind of workplace, right? I'm saying it right. She's making it for you. You say, I'm a feminist, but are you really working for this? Is it intersectional or is it not? That's why we say that it fails everybody, especially when we're talking about the difference between men and women, which was let's say the specific objective of feminism. In this case, men, and I'm sorry because I'm seeing that everybody in the room, all the men specifically, are kind of looking down when we were talking. No, you need to look at us, okay? So the thing is that the men in this room, probably some of them, I'm sorry, probably women were the ones who raised their hands when Bani was asking. Half of the room doesn't want to identify themselves, and that's not an issue of mainstream feminism, that's an issue of feminism as a whole. And that's an issue that we all need to address, apart from our bias, apart from our race, apart from our gender identity, apart from all of that. Because the point that Genevieve said, and I'm really proud that you came here today and you spoke, because I'm really proud of you. She said that we need to advocate rights for all women. Universalities, that's what she said. And that's what we've been trying to discuss all this way around. That's how we can make real changes, because do you really think that the politicians care about like this big little debate that we're having? Do you think that the richest people are really caring about all this feminism discussion that we're going to have? No, they probably don't. So that's why we say that it fails everybody, because the only minority that it doesn't fail are those 5% of the population. So basically, and as a conclusion, I would like to say, because it's been like very heated debate, I'm sure we all want to go to half pints later. That's something that is universal, right? That's something that feminism always fights for, I think. So the points of clash of this debate, as I said, it's equality versus egalitarianism, because it's only a facade. When we're focusing the point on mainstream feminism, we're forgetting the main fight, and it's freedom and liberation. So we shouldn't break the movement into pieces and forgetting the main goal, right? That's why we think that mainstream feminism didn't fail minorities, because it shouldn't, as Sarah said, have been their vehicle of the social fight in the first place. We should all realize, because the minorities have, and also we as white women, we have our place. And we all have bias in the end. So, as a conclusion, I would like to say freedom and liberation, and fuck the rich people.
I think that might be a fine. I'm not.
I don't care. I will buy you all this sweets. I wanted to say that. I don't care.
What do you want the fine to be?
A cake. I think.
Okay.
No, not a big cake.
Okay. The fine. Find some form of cake. So, can we now have another round of applause for all of our speakers? So it's question time. You know what happens. Put your hand up if you've got any questions for the proposition. Yes, let's begin us at the back.
Shane Guinness. Bunny, you mentioned about the lack of male speakers today. Men have spoken for women for centuries. Support feminism is trying to change that.
Men have spoke for women for centuries in the sense that they didn't give them their own voice. Men should speak up for women because they should acknowledge that there is discrimination going on. If they keep quiet about this, if they look away, if they say it's not their problem anymore, it's just going to take us women a longer time to fix the problem. All I'm saying is that we need help from the majority. We need help from men, we need help from white people, we need help from everybody. If aliens were here, I would ask them for help.
Also just well.
I mean, yeah. I completely agree. I think the presence of an all-female panel tonight actually is a good thing. As I said earlier on, we can speak for ourselves. I think if we're a society that has women in it, women should be able to speak on this. I agree with what you're saying. Men should support women. They should be actively playing a role in feminism. To reference what Mr. Dunn said earlier on, men should speak up, but not at the expense of women. Like you said, it should be women speaking for themselves, and men's a kind of like hype man in the background going like, yeah!
So, now, any questions for the opposition? Mr. Parry.
I just took issue with the dismissal that the last speaker gave people who are successful women. I mean, Melinda Gates, who's Bill Gates' wife, donated over $1 billion to gender equality. Someone like Sheryl Sandberg, who's CFO of Facebook, has done so much work for gender equality. The list goes on, and I think when you're starting a revolution, a feminist revolution, you have to look to people who are in positions of power in order to bring up the grassroots. Because in any revolution that ever happened, it always, generally, when you look at the profiles of those who led it, started from people who were in positions of power before and were generally well off. So you can't dismiss people like that, or it's just, I don't really understand that.
I'm going to talk to you from the heart here. I was talking a little bit for the crowd, to be fair, first of all. And second of all, although I agree to certain things that you say, I think that charity shouldn't be like the main focus of like these people of power, because it kind of puts apart how they should take like specifically like action into all these movements, because sometimes I really think that when charity comes into these debates, it's always as a way of like taking the blame out of like, or maybe like the pressure out of their shoulders. So I agree with you in a sense that we shouldn't like we shouldn't quit credit, to these people that they may have done like something good. But on the other hand, I think that charity should be it's a privilege, and that should be something that these people should be aware of, because not everybody has the privilege to be able to give money to charity, for example, or to just like fight for a cause. It's not something that everybody can have the privilege to do. Am I making sense?
Yep. Did you respond?
So I actually would agree with what Emma was saying, and the well-generated money for people like Bill Gates' wife and whoever is generated by the working class, by men and women, and it's built off the back of the poor, and it giving that money back essentially is a way of removing feelings of guilt. I think that's not going to make as effective a difference as it would to have effective policies in place in their factories where they manufacture their parts for Microsoft and everything, and having sweatshops and everything, actually putting money into things that will actually affect real people. And as people who are privileged and rich, they are in a position where they can vocalise themselves where other people can't. And they're not using that, they're just using it to be able to look at me, I'm such a good philanthropist, I give away my money, but they actually are in a position to do a lot more than they actually are doing.
Are there any abstaining questions? So this is going to either side or neither side. So, Ms. Becker.
I'd like to ask both sides. You've largely spoken about race as a minority, and generally did touch upon classism and disabilities as well, which we've barely touched on. But I'd like to know your guys' opinions on what you think about Northern Irish women being a minority within the UK, and because it has largely been spoken about women being minorities within a specific society opposed to a whole universe, as it were. So yeah, I'd like to ask you on that.
So, proposition and response first.
I think the idea that mainstream feminism has become such a kind of little cult that they don't no longer represent the fundamental rights of any women anymore is failing Northern Irish women as well. It's failing all kinds of women, as the speaker lovely said. It's that no longer are women represented for their ideals and their fundamental rights. So, yeah, I would say that mainstream feminism fails Northern Irish women just as much as it fails other women.
Position response?
I'm trying to think of how to verbalise what I have in my brain. I think Northern Irish women did utilise mainstream feminism to their advantage in that we use specific, so I said earlier on, mainstream feminism sort of addresses points of like legal stuff and financial stuff and big sort of broad issues. I think if you look at the abortion campaign here, the like repealing the Republican up here, you've recently seen the pressure put on politicians to enact abortion legislation in Northern Ireland. I think that was absolutely a tool of people in mainstream feminism using very traditional routes, which shows how they fail that minority group, and even in Northern Irish women, in a very small context, within the context of the wider UK, a very small group of women applied that much pressure on the UK government that it wasn't even MLAs here, it wasn't even MPs here, it was English MPs that felt the pressure put on by a minority group from Northern Ireland that we were able to enact change, and in that respect it absolutely didn't fail us. We were able to benefit from that. I get it now with the privilege because we are white, but women's rights issues are quite taboo, and I think we used that data quite well. That was a very woolly explanation that I gave, but hopefully you caught the gist of what I was trying to say.
So the background again, any questions for the proposition? Mr. McCall.
I suppose what both sides agree tonight is that we live in a pretty fucked up patriarchal world.
You know in a society 3 packets of Haribo, Mr. McCall.
But my question is to the proposition, is why specifically has mainstream feminism failed minorities? Why is it mainstream feminism as opposed to simply just all other movements will fail minorities naturally because of that capitalist society that we live in?
So the defining the word mainstream is another word for popular. It's another word for majorities. It's another word for what everybody thinks of when it comes to mind. It's failing minorities is because it's setting kind of a status quo on what feminism is. It's setting that if you're a feminist, you're someone that doesn't shave your armpits, someone that doesn't shave your legs, someone that doesn't wear a bra, someone that smells. It paints a really, really bad picture of what a feminist is. And that sticks in people's minds. That is what you leave the table with, right? And the lesser the people are there supporting a feminist. I mean, I proved it just now. Half the room didn't want to say they were a feminist, but then the whole room agreed that I should have equal rights to a white woman, which is what a feminist ideal is. So the reason why it's failing mainstream reason why mainstream feminism is failing minorities is because it's having such a great time going over trivial things and things that aren't important and turning a blind eye to people that are suffering fundamental rights being taken away from them.
I have several issues with what you just said, but that's all by the by. I think it shouldn't matter what colour or shape or size or armpit aside. Feminists are feminists, that's by the by, and a woman should not apologise for how she chooses to present and shouldn't be made to feel she has to change what way she presents to be palatable to the public. Can you repeat the point that was made? Who made that?
The point that I was saying was simply that why is mainstream feminism so unique that it fails its own minorities as opposed to any other movement that would naturally fail minorities because of the manner in which the word operates, really?
Great, yes. This sort of in a weird way ties back to the Sheryl Sandberg point that you're boldly to make, which was about mainstream feminism and all women are victim to a capitalist neoliberal society, which is why I was earlier on about Sheryl Sandberg. I wanted to say about how she wrote a book that generated massive criticism from feminist theorists all over the place. It's called Lean In, and essentially the gist of her book was women created the barriers in their mind. They don't actually exist. That I called that pen. That was great. The barriers aren't real. If you work hard and put your nose to the ground, you're the grand. What?
The South African.
Oh, Sheryl Sandberg, sorry, the Facebook CEO person that you referenced earlier on. That to me sort of shows, there are, you could go a real Marxist route to mainstream feminism isn't the issue, it's capitalism is the issue. You could go down the route of it isn't economics is the issue, it's race is the issue. There are that many different theories on it. That's why we're saying that mainstream feminism is the sole issue. There are that many reasons and facets as to why women are oppressed, as to why minorities are oppressed, that just put the blame solely onto this one very vague and sort of loose concept of feminism, sort of ignores the nuances of what is a very complex world and situation.
Any questions for the opposition? Mr. Dunn.
So this is a question directed at the opposition, but it's kind of like...
Oh, no. You know better than this.
What happened generally. So I completely agree with Mary Pate's nuanced definition of the multifaceted nature of feminism. The reality, however, with the kind of media society that we have is that certain voices obviously get heard more than others, and certain strands of feminism have been used to demonise minorities. I'm thinking particularly of Germaine Greer. How do you rise against that? How, as a feminist movement, do feminists, I suppose, bring attention to those nuances that you explained? Because as much as you all say, I think Germaine Greer's comments do have an impact on general discourse and a damaging impact of that.
Right, first and foremost, fuck Germaine Greer. I don't know who she is
Jimmy Grace from the 70s. She is very publicly denounced now. Nobody really wants to talk to her. She's not allowed to give speeches at any universities anymore. She's not a good example.
Wait.
Mary Kate, just while Tara's writing that for you to read out, you know what's a bottle of Coke for a fine.
Right. Say it. Tara says that she's like the Jim Allister of feminism.
I'm just going to add, it was written in exactly the same way that Ginny Reesley wrote the love writing on the wall in pen. Is that you?
It was so intense about Jermaine Greer, I missed the rest of the point, but these voices that are saying these really opposing things, really polarizing opinions, they are, like Jermaine Greer, they are being decided. People are not interested in those really dangerous and damaging opinions. We're moving away from it.
On a clarification, for those of us who aren't aware, could we get some examples of what it is Jermaine Greer has actually said?
Trans women are not women. That's what she said.
She was that one?
She's
Okay.
terrible. She's a bad person.
Context for Jim Allister.
No context is needed for Jim Allister.
Also, yeah, I was going to say I actually agree with a lot of the points that the opposition made tonight. I think they made some really solid points. And I think where we actually diverge in a lot of our opinions tonight is not on what the mainstream currently is, but what it should be, and what mainstream, or what the current mainstream is. We've all agreed that it is white middle class women. We should make sure that they make a space for these other voices to be heard, so anarcho-feminists, Marxist feminists, eco-feminists, all the different branches. We particularly intersectionality is a key point. So basically the point is that feminism by definition should be intersectional, and not that an afterthought, as you said, like not included as an afterthought, but it should be, and that these voices should be brought into the mainstream, but not, and that they should be the main within the vanguard and not included. They're being heard, but they should be actually be allowed to speak as well on their own behalf, and not just, it's good to have your own safe space and speak uninterrupted and talk about your own issues, but they should be brought to the forefront and brought to the main arena as well. And I think people like Jermaine during their career, it's very second wave feminism. I think we're coming into an era now actually where intersectionality is becoming a lot more visible, and we're having a lot more, especially in social media, but the mainstream in terms of media and everything as well in traditional media is still kind of trying to catch up to what how mainstream thought is within the feminist groups. So, yeah.
So, are there any brief abstaining questions anywhere in the room? Mr. Thornton.
I'm I've got a abstaining point, and I'm interested in both sides of opinions in terms of a very similar movement is the LGBTQ plus movement. So we all have our minorities within that. As a gay man myself, I very much support lesbian and trans and queer people, but we are minorities within that. But yet we can still come together and you know, whether it's at Pride or support each other in terms of our voices. And I'm just interested in terms of, you know, comparing and contrasting that feminist movement, and maybe is there minorities in there that can be supported, or is it an element of branching everyone on the same umbrellas?
So that would be opposition respond first to proposition last time. It's opposition respond first to proposition.
Okay, sorry.
Are you okay?
I'm sorry, I just saw Gillian and I was just like, ooh, what should I do? I mean, it's kind of interesting that you asked that question because I personally, I would like to think that we all are intersectional, and like this whole fight against the whole status quo, it's relevant to all of us in a sense, like the biases of these people who don't agree with like queer people or queer women or whatever. I really think that it's like where the intersectionality that Genevieve was talking about comes to place. So if we have to go like as women to the pride, like we should go. We have to go as women to like a social protest against like Black Lives Matter or all of these. And I really think that we should all like come together as a movement. And I don't think you agree on that. And yeah, that's basically it. I think that's what we were trying to discuss all the way through the debate. That we are intersection where we all love each other.
Proposition response. So.
Yeah.
It's a very, very good example of why the feminist movement doesn't work. It's because that reinforcement of why I can't speak for her is there. Whereas in the LGBTQ community, it's I know that you have struggled your whole life, and so have I, in different ways. But you know what? I respect that, and I'm going to stand up for you. And if someone comes at you, I will come at them. But in the feminist movement, it's like, you should protect your own rights. You can speak for yourself. We're giving you the platform to speak. Speak. But you know what? I'm not going to fight for you, because that's kind of like disrespecting you. You know, shut up, seriously. Help us. It's really gotten to the point where we need to sit down and have a talk and say, look, this is not okay, and everyone needs to agree. And in that community, with so much pain and so much struggle, finally, do people come together and say, look, we are just all one big group of people that need love and love each other.
I like her.
So, I'd like to thank all of our speakers again. And if you're interested in speaking, please speak to Mr. Russell Mann. He is the speaking person. So, it's the end of the evening, so that means we move on to our vote of speakerability. So, if you believe that the proposition spoke meant this evening, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye. No, you didn't.
And all those who wish to vote for the opposition, please raise your hands and say nay.
Nay.
And all of those who wish to abstain on the motion, who think they spoke equally well, equally terribly, or don't really care, please raise your hands and say meh.
Meh.
Mr. Bryson, can you please read back the vote?
We have 10 votes for the proposition, 21 for the opposition, and 10 abstaining votes.
So the opposition have the opposition of it. Hope you all have a good evening. Everyone seems to be going towards Candy Corner like it's some kind of planet. Before we go, when Bryson dings that bell, I want everyone to leave the room and head to the pub. It means Council will get a chance to finish tidying up. And all speakers to the front of the programme. I declare the